Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and in this episode we're continuing our look at Jazzware's AEW Supreme Collection Series 2. We're following up my look at the Kenny Omega figure now with the second figure in this wave, and that is this bad boy. Well, I guess quite literally, in this case, Malakai Black. Formerly known as Aleister Black from the WWE, Malakai burst onto the scene and made quite an impact in AEW and has done a lot there. Now, currently he is taking a bit of mental health break. Hopefully we'll see him soon and I wish him well. But hey, on the plus side, we did get this killer action figure of him before he took that little departure. One of my favorite Mattel WWE figures that came out in the past few years was actually the Aleister Black action figure. I really enjoyed the tattoos on it. I loved the detail, great likeness. Everything about it was amazing. I reviewed it here on this channel, by the way, so if you want to take a look at that review, go ahead and dig through our archives and you'll find it. But today we have this version here. This is the Supreme Edition. And what Supreme Editions are, in case you don't know, it's basically AEW's answer to WWE's Ultimate Edition figures. But there's some pretty key differences between those two figures here, as we'll talk about once you get this guy loose. But the biggest thing you need to know up front is that this is essentially two different outfits in one packaging, which is something that you're never ever going to see with a WWE Mattel Ultimate Edition figure. So let's just dive into this packaging real quick here, because I want to get this guy out right away. So I think the packaging on these are very, very excellent. This is a really cool construction. I love what they're doing with these figures here. It's basically replicating the AEW entrance ramp, which looks so cool in this format here. Now, I don't know if these are the most collector-friendly packaging. I'm going to find out once I open these guys up. My prediction is a little bit of yes, a little bit of no. So, you know, I'd say if you are a mint on card collector, get a second one to open if you want a Lucy. But as far as presentation goes, this is top notch. You get just this awesome entrance area, plus you get a clear look at everything because this window display is basically almost all of the packaging itself. I mean, you have this enormous space to see every single accessory, plus if we turn it to one side, you'll see even more of the accessories. And in this case, you're seeing a glimpse of his legs. This is his other outfit that you're gonna have here. And if we turn it the other way, you get a nice look at some of the additional heads he has, because again, this is Supreme, so we're coming with a lot of heads here, plus some other entrance outfits. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck here with these toys. And I just love this golden design. I love the very simple look of it, but it really looks like it's going to stand out wonderfully on a shelf somewhere if you leave it in this packaging. Now, if we turn it around, you'll see the back of the box here, which has this enormous picture of Malakai in action, or really in this case, sitting in his entrance gear in the ring from an episode of AEW Dynamite, but close enough. That's what all the AEW figures haven't done so far. They always have a great action shot or some kind of photo of them in the ring wearing the outfit that you're seeing in this action figure. One thing you're not getting on this packaging that you've seen with the other Jazzwares toys is a look at who else is in the line. But I think that that's because this is the Supreme figure, so they really want to put all of the attention on the one wrestler that this toy is of. So it's fairly simple packaging here. I wouldn't call it sparse though, because you're getting a lot of information, and it really is just a wonderful looking showpiece too. I mean, this really is going to be awesome if you just leave it as is, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead right now, get this Malakai Black out of the packaging, and take a closer look at him from all angles. And here is our Malakai Black now out of the packaging into focus. This is such a cool looking figure, you guys. I'm so glad I waited. Well, waited for what exactly? There hasn't been another figure yet. This is the first AEW figure of Malakai Black. So yeah, this is going to be, I think, very hard to top. And quite frankly, I don't see them topping what they're doing here. And just based on my initial glance of everything that we got for these toys here, yeah, this earns the name Supreme. So I wanted to talk about the box real quick also, because I did talk about that at the start of the video here. It is really, in my opinion, not collector friendly. I don't really know what Jazzwares have to say about that, but for my money, it didn't really feel very easy to get out there, and definitely is not going to go back into that packaging. So, you know, if you're a mint on card collector, leave it in the box. If you're a Lucy, you're going to have to get one just for that. But let's just talk about this figure now. So this is our Malakai Black straight out of the packaging. This is how he appears. He's already in one of his entrance gears and one of his masked heads. So this thing is just gorgeous looking. This is such a frightening, demonic, monstrous figure here with so many amazing elements that just make this a perfect version of Malakai Black. So I'm going to go back to that close-up shot, though, just because I think it's worth spending some time on these heads here. And we have a lot of heads to talk about, so let's just start with that here. So in case you're wondering, by the way, this is one of his entrance heads. And in case you're wondering, this does not come off. This mask is glued onto his face. So, you know, if you want to try and do like anything to, you know, make any entrance and things or whatever, no, you can't. You can't take any separate photos with it. Maybe another version of him down the line will have a mask you'd pull on and off, but what you're getting here, this is a permanent fixture onto his face. And this is one of two masked faces that he has. I think we'll do a swap as we change some of the different outfits here, but just look at how cool that head is, you guys. Like, oh man, wonderful paint job. Like, this is some top-notch work from Jazzwares. I have been very critical of Jazzwares painting in the past, but I think with the Supreme line, they're definitely putting some more love into these and some more time into these also, because there's a lot going on here. Could it be more detailed? Totally, yeah. But, you know, again, for like a $40-ish figure, or 50-ish if you're buying it from Ringside, I will accept this for a mass-produced figure. I think it's pretty solid, pretty great. It's more than solid. It's very good. So let's start talking about some of the outfit as well here, because Malakai has a pretty interesting outfit here. This is one of the ones he has. So it is a singular piece of fabric, but it's quite a piece of fabric. It is cut just for him. This one is pretty cool. So let's just talk about some of the different things about this feature here. So one thing I want to mention too is this one does have a hood. So if you want to go for the full-on entrance gear, there you go. You can just kind of pull it up. Let's see if I actually need to loosen his arms a little bit to make it happen, but there you guys go. You can actually get it to be a proper sort of cowl, which is more accurate to how he would wear that here. There's nothing here to kind of attach it, so it just kind of will flop open on its own, or you can just have Malakai, you know, flash people if you wanted to do that. So that's that. So it's really cool. I can't just get over that. There's really not much else I could say beyond that. It's very cool. Here's how it looks from the back also. It's really great, but the best thing about this is that you get options, and there's more. Because we also have this piece of fabric right here. This is a different outfit, which you can see right now. This is a little bit different, and I've also swapped the heads here. So that is another version of Malakai with his head on, with his masked head on. And again, that mask does not come off. It is permanently glued onto Malakai's face. This one might be my favorite, but I'm not really too sure. I mean, I think this is the one that you're seeing on the back of the packaging of the toy also. It's very cool, again, and this one has a really good detailed paint job, some good weathering, some good toning on it. Although I think, as you will see, there's still some weaknesses, which we'll get to in a moment. But this is a wonderful head, and this outfit too is also pretty darn cool. I'm optimistic that I have him wearing the outfit correctly. You know, I don't really think there's a wrong way to put on demon clothing, right? So whatever, as long as he's not totally naked, I'm good with that. But wait, there's more, because we also have this piece of clothing right here. This is his entrance vest, which you could have him wear separately. You can have him wear it on its own, and you can see it right now where I've got him just wearing that on its own. And you can also see the next pair of legs, which we're going to swap out in a minute or two here. So this is also now version of Malakai without any masks on, and he comes with 3 of those heads, which we'll also spend a little bit more time with in a few moments here. But you guys can see now a lot of options. That's 3 options right away, and if you want to start throwing in the vest into like some of the other ones too, you can do that. But off the bat, you're getting 3 outfits just for like entrance gear alone, and that's not including the fact that he has the 2 different legs. So there's like, you know, well, I want to say limitless permutations here. That's not accurate. There's definitely a limit to them, but a lot of very good options. And like, wow, again, this makes this a very hard figure to beat when it comes to Malakai Black. So that said, here we have this Malakai. Let's just do some part swapping right now, because I want to show you guys one of the best things about this. And by the way, this is how this figure goes on. You can see it goes around his neck here. So the cool thing, by the way, since this is fabric, is you can easily take this on and off. And same with the other piece of fabric outfit as well. Very easy. And likewise with the vest, because it has some pretty large spaces there to get outfits on. So I am a big fan of that. Normally, if it's like hard rubber, like for example, the Kenny Omega Supreme figure here, which comes with this hard rubber jacket, you kind of do need to take the arms off to remove it. You can kind of fake it with Kenny, but others in general who have this hard rubber, I recommend you take the arms off. But Malakai, his outfit, very, very easy to deal with. So let's get a quick glimpse at his legs also. You can see the knee pads. I wanted to show you guys the legs, because we're going to swap the legs right now. And this is, again, one of like the best parts of the Jazzwares AEW figures is that they're modular, and most of the major joints, or all the major joints really, pop out. And major joints meaning the shoulders, this part here, the chest, torso, the waist, like they pop out, and that's what we're going to do here. We're going to do a quick swap-a-roo like this. We're going to put in his tie shorts version, and there you guys can go and see that now. And pretty much same knee pads and same boots also, it looks like, but we'll swap that out. And let's put on one of these unmasked heads as well, so we can get our Malakai Black into the ring and in action. So there you guys go. Now I want to point out something too that I didn't mention yet, which I feel like I should. So as I was unboxing him and talking about the basically the ability to get them back in the packaging, things like that, Malakai's cool because he actually came with a ton of these little plastic bits here. And you might be wondering, what the heck is this? Why does this matter? So these plastic bits were covering his waist and his arms. And the reason for that is to protect the figure from having any fabric smudges from this guy right here. And this is really cool. Now, I talked about this in the Kenny Omega video. Again, we're going to go back to our Kenny Omega, because our Kenny over here came with, once again, this hood over here, this entrance jacket. And unfortunately, as I talked about in the video, Kenny didn't have any of those little plastic bits to cover him. So what that means is you could potentially get a stained Omega. And to be quite fair, these rubber bits are terrible. I mean, they're beautifully done. This is a great version of it, I mean, but in terms of like staining, I have figures that came straight out of the packaging that were new that were stained, and likewise, same with the fabric. So I'm glad that at least for Malakai, they did put some of those in there, and that's great. Very happy about that, and I wish they would do it more often. So while we're focused on our Malakai Black here, I just want to show you guys all the heads one more time. So this is one of those horned heads. This is the other very horned head, and they look so good. But as you also know, Malakai comes with some additional unmasked heads, and we have these two over here. So 3 unmasked heads total, and different facial expressions. What's cool about them too is like you can see the one on my right hand here. It's got like much smaller of a space here, and as time goes on, as you know, Malakai's face has been overtaken by that darkness, and that's been shown through his face paint. So, you know, I think if you bought more Malakai Black figures, you'll be able to get basically the entire full Monty, if you will, of the darkness overtaking him. It's such a cool, very minimal gimmick, but I love it. I love what he's doing with it. So, yeah, but the one thing I want to point out, though, besides, you know, how good the head sculpts are, which I do think these are very good head sculpts, but the one thing that's a little bit of a downer for me is the paint job on our Malakai Black's head, and in particular the beard and the hair. It's very one note, and it is one note. It's just one color for the paint, for the hair, for the beard. Very little variation on it. Really no nuance or subtlety, and you know, I kind of wish there was more of it in there. Beards are tough to do in action figure form, and the way to make them look better is to at least just put a little bit of like weathering or dry brush or something to give it some texture. Otherwise, it just looks like a block. It's not the worst here, though. I'm okay with how it looks in here, but I would have loved it to have just a little bit of highlight or something else to kind of make it look good. I mean, they did an excellent job with the Kenny Omega, but thick beards, they struggle with. That's just action figures across the board, I feel like. So that's just a personal nitpick for me, but it's not a bad thing here. I'm really not docking any points because the beard still looks excellent. And, you know, that said, I do want to spend some time to talk about the paint here, because the paint job on Malakai is just outstanding. And in particular, because I do want to spotlight all the tattoos he has. And he has a bevy of tattoos. So we've compared tattoos in the past from like Jazzwares to Mattel figures and how they do the tattoos differently. And I think the tattoo designs here are much more clear and I think a little bit more vivid, in fact, also compared to what some of the Mattel tattoos were. I mean, just look at the design here of the Medusa head on the back, the Gorgon head, whatever that is here. Some of the stuff on his arm here. Very well done, very nicely put together. You can see all the little details in there. That's just great to me. I love attention to detail like that. And likewise, too, I'm going to just use the other legs here because it's got more tattoos. You can see more of them on it. You can see some of the tattoos that are on his legs, on his back, the back of the leg like there. Like, yeah, there's some great tattoos here. So, yeah, no comparison here. They're all excellent looking. Great work on the tattoos. Bright colors. Very good designs. Yeah, overall, top to bottom, really great. And speaking of top to bottom, here, let's just do a quick pan of this figure as well, just so you can see all the legs and everything too, and all the knee pads on him. This is him in the tie shorts, as we mentioned, but we'll probably swap him back out one more time. But overall, just, again, like, this is great work. Like, this is a great action figure. Even just objectively speaking, as a toy, like, this is such a good figure. Now, as far as other accessories go, well, there's not much else, actually. You know, we have a pair of closed fists, and that's it, because he had so many other things, too. So you have a pair of closed fists, and you have a pair of the open hands, which is currently what is on him right now. And, yeah, I know for a fact that the joints swap out really easily. There's no problems. I'll just do one just because. But, yeah, in case you're wondering why there's less hands here than, let's say, that Kenny Omega, that's because you got a heck of a lot more heads as well as fabric outfits. So, you know, it's a trade-off, and quite frankly, it's a trade-off I'm pretty happy with. So, yeah, that's our Malakai with one other hand on. Very easy. You saw how quick I did that. And you saw, again, as I was swapping the heads out in this video, too, I believe. So, you know, I rarely have problems with that. Sometimes the heads will give you a little bit of issue, but easy to deal with. All right, so let's talk a little bit about articulation here, too, since we haven't done that yet. And the AEW figures are so wonderfully articulated. Even just their normal ones are great. And the Supremes are one step above those. So you can see we have bullet-jointed neck here, full range of motion. We have shoulder articulation. We have the bicep swivel, we have the double-jointed elbows, which are typical for all AEW Jazzwares figures, and the wrists that can rotate, bend, and flex. So you can get into a nice little strongman pose right there. But one thing that's different from these figures than the others is that they have the butterfly joint. Now, I'm trying to get it to show you off on this arm here, but that joint seems to be very stiff, so hopefully it's better on this arm. A little bit. Those are very stiff joints. They're not moving much, but well, if they were moving, you'd see that there's a more improved range of motion than what you get with the typical figure. But they're not working right now, so that's odd. You know, normally the joints aren't too bad with AEW figures, but if this happens, just get yourself a hairdryer, heat it up, and that should move it around just fine. But I mean, you can still see a little bit of what I'm talking about, because there is a little more flexibility just with that being there. But trust me, if that joint was actually moving, oh, you'd be in for such a treat. So yeah, that's a little minor thing. In addition to that, we do have the chest piece that moves a little bit. These things never move a lot. I don't know why. And likewise with the waist. They don't move a ton, but they do move. That also might just be a joint that needs to get heated up. As we move down to the legs, we have basically, well, these legs not as flexible because of the tie shorts. You can still get some good kicks, but not quite as good of a range of motion, it feels like, because it does kind of hinder him a little bit. You do have thigh swivel, double jointed knees. These knee pads are nice and light and thin, so you can actually flex them pretty well. And the boots can swivel, and we have ankle that moves too. And one of the differences between the Supremes and the normal Jazzwares AEW figures is that little toe joint right there. So you can get some extra poses with that. That's a very tight joint too for some reason. I'm going to do a swap again though, just because we do have the other legs to talk about, and they are a little bit different, and the articulation is going to be different because, well, there's no tie shorts in the way. So there you go. You can get a little bit more flexibility with those. Let's see. I mean, you can't get him to do like, a super high kick. This is about as high as that leg is going to go. But it's a little bit better than what you had on with those tie shorts. So let's just do another pan up of him in these shorts now. So you just drink in all that Malakai Black. Man, this is such a great figure of him. Really no complaints here, or very minimal complaints, as you've seen if you've been spending time watching this video. Very minimal complaints here. So let's just spend some time now doing some size comparisons with some other figures. Let's start by getting one of his rivals in there. Let's see if we can get Penta inside the ring with him. Penta's one of my favorite figures. This is also probably one of my favorite AEW figures, period, from the series. There we go. That's him with Penta. Let's get someone a little bit bigger also to compare him with. Let's get our late great Brody Lee figure in there. So that's how he looks. So that's how he looks with those two figures side by side. You can see a little bit of height variation too with the Brody, which is always cool. But let's swap him out now for some Mattel figures as well, just so we can see how he stacks up next to them. Here we got ourselves an X-Pac, and I've also got a basic Samoa Joe, an older basic Samoa Joe. So there you go. That's how he looks. Again, size-wise, it's never really going to be an issue with these wrestling figures. They're all essentially the same scale, but they look really good all together. Final thoughts on this Malakai Black figure here. This is a knockout. This might be the best Supreme edition that they've done. I really love the Kenny Omega figure, partly because I'm a pretty big Kenny Omega mark, which I admitted to in that video. And it is a really good toy, but I have to admit, this Malakai Black is just light years beyond it. The fact that you get all the different heads with the different masks, the different facial expression, the different paint jobs, plus the different entrance gear, and in addition to that, you're also getting the different legs. You've got just so many different options for posing, for photography, whatever you want to do with this figure here. The one maybe downside is, the lack of extra hands, but you don't need them. You really don't need them that much. It'd be cool to get like a completely open hand, but the fact that you have the gripping hands and the closed fists, really, what more do you need with Malakai Black? You've got great articulation. You've got beautiful paint job, especially on those tattoos. I mean, wow, those tattoos blew me away. I don't really know if this video does them justice or not, but they definitely have to be seen to be truly admired. But really, top-notch work on the tattoos. Spectacular figure, top to bottom. I don't really think I have too many complaints. I don't remember complaining too much while I was talking about this figure, and that's a really good thing because, as I mentioned, some of the Jazzwares AEW figures, they kind of soured on me, and to be quite honest, I've cut back on them. So I feel like seeing these Supreme Edition figures kind of reminds me that there are some good elements to them, and I might just focus my collection more towards the Supremes at this point anyway. Not every single wrestler on the roster is going to get a Supreme figure, but the top talent will always get those, and they're worth getting. Did these redeem some of the other toys I've looked at in the past from AEW? Perhaps, perhaps not. That's still to be determined, but this at least gave me a glimmer of hope, and that's funny because we're talking about one of the darkest characters on the roster, but, I'm still on board. I'm still all elite, so let's go with some more figures. Let's go. Now, if you want to pick up this Malakai Black for yourself, right now you're going to be able to get him pretty much exclusively from Ringside Collectibles. Down the road, he will likely be available in Walmart, possibly in Targets, and most likely Amazon also, but you're going to have to be very, very patient to wait for those figures to get them at cheaper prices, and when they do come out, it's probably going to be a crazy war to get them, because AEW figures, I still don't quite know how to gauge the market on them. Sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're cold, but these Supremes seem to be pretty darn boiling, so yeah, if you see him, I'd say just grab him. Don't wait on this one, and especially, if you want him right now, just get him from Ringside, pay the extra money for it. Or heck, even just wait a week or two and get him when he's on one of the sales that's going to be coming up, because there's always a sale happening on Ringside Collectibles' website. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. This is our look at the AEW Supreme Series 2 Malakai Black figure. What a knockout he is. So we'll see you guys here later with more reviews and everything else here we do on the channel. Stick around, or else Malakai is going to kick your head off.